Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute since I've done a sit down talk to you guys style video. If you've been watching the recent videos that I've posted, you will see that I have been sharing the content or the videos that I created when I was going through my third IVF transfer back in August of 2022. So I just want to kind of follow up on the last video. But before I do that, I just want to thank you guys so much for following, for subscribing, for commenting, all the love that I have received on the videos that I've recently posted. I appreciate so much. My channel has been growing a little bit, so I wanted to continue to be consistent and post these videos and just continue to share my journey because I see how it is helping others and it is also helping me as I go through the storm of infertility and overcoming miscarriage and failed cycles. So I just want to thank you guys for following along on this journey and for being here for the ride. And if you are not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to my channel and make sure you share this video with someone who may be going through the same journey or someone who can be encouraged by it. So in my last video, it was time for beta. And if you saw, it was like the day before beta, I had tested at home and the line was very, very, very faint. Like the test was negative practically. So that was very, very disappointing because the first two times it was positive. You know, I was pregnant. I had gotten past that point. So to see that the test was not positive was just, it was so confusing. As you can see in the video, I was just confused, like at a loss for words. I just couldn't even process it, you know? So a few hours later, like I would say around noon, I actually ended up in the ER, which you also saw at the end of that video.
And 100% like, but sometimes anyone's speaking in Spanish, I know what they're saying. But if I like.
So the night before, or like real early in the morning, I was having some, what did I call it? Like dull throbbing sensation in my left arm. It happened a few times that night. And then in the morning, it was just still a little bit of that, but not as much as it was at night. So I messaged my IVF coordinator, my IVF nurse, and let her know, hey, like I'm having this throbbing, painful, it was throbbing pain in my left arm. So she said, I said, it kind of feels like I pulled a muscle or something. So she was saying like it could be a musculoskeletal pull, but just go to the ER to rule out any type of cardiac issues. So I already knew like going to the ER is going to be a long wait. Nobody likes to go to the ER. Joe got off work early that day. He did like a half day. So as soon as he got home, I was like, we got to go to the ER. So he took me to the ER, and just as I suspected, it was like a long day. I got there maybe about 12:30, 12:45, and did not leave till like 7:30 that night. Like I was there my entire day. So, you go in, they did the EKG. They wanted to, test to make sure that was normal. I ended up getting like this ultrasound on my arm. They wanted to make sure there were no blood clots. I did blood tests and all that. So they just ran a bunch of tests, but of course it was not like all at the same time. It was like EKG, then you go sit and wait for the next person. Blood work, then you go sit and wait for the next person. So I never even made it to a room. I was like on a stretcher in the hallway the entire time I was there. So that was also frustrating. So the first person that I met with was this nurse. He had, they were just kind of waiting on my blood results or my blood test, the results of my blood test. So I said to him, I said, I just did an IVF transfer last week. So I may or may not, I may be pregnant. I don't know yet. So he said, okay, I'll let you know when I get the blood test results back. So I'm like, okay. So as I'm waiting for him, then I think The insurance person comes out and they take your, how they take your insurance information. And then a few hours passed and I finally was able to see the person that did the ultrasound. So they wheeled me back there, did the ultrasound. And then of course you have to wait for the results of that. So there's more waiting. So once they did, or I guess did the ultrasound and got the results back, they pretty much were like, everything has come back normal. So I was kind of waiting and waiting. Like I said, it was several hours. And I remember saying to this other nurse, like, what's going on? Like, am I going to be put into a room? Is everything looking okay where I can leave? Like, I have been there for hours. Like, it got to the point where I had told Joe to go home. He brought me back some food like that. It was just, that's how long I was there. So the nurse came. There was two different nurses. One was like an older male nurse. That was the one that I had met with right after my blood, like right after they had drew blood. And I told him like, hey, I just did a round of IVF and I had a transfer last week. I may or may not be pregnant. So that was that nurse. But then I saw this other nurse. It was a younger male nurse. So I was like, what are we waiting on? Like, is there any more tests that I need to take? Like, can I go? What's the deal? So he was like, well, we're still waiting on your last test results. Like the EKG came back normal. He said, we're just waiting on your ultrasound results. So I said, okay. And I said, I did IVF, an IVF transfer last week. So I may or may not be pregnant. And he says to me, he says, oh, you're not. And I was like, he said, yeah, I saw the results of your blood test. You're not pregnant. So I was like, wow, okay, just like that. Okay, not sensitive at all. Not like, oh, wow, you just did an IVF transfer. Let me be gentle in how I deliver the news that you're not pregnant. Nope, he was just like, oh, no, you're not. Like, that's how he did it. So I said, okay. He said, I'll double check though, just to make sure. But, I looked at it, you're not. So I said, okay. So he came back maybe 30 minutes or so later. And actually, before he came back, the older nurse that I saw earlier that day, he came to me and he said, the results of your blood test, show that your pregnancy test was negative. And he said, I know that you said you did an IVF transfer last week. So please, double check with your fertility doctor. He was just like, I'm so sorry. But don't take this, as the final. He said, please just follow up with your fertility doctor. And he was just so sympathetic and kind and, understanding and just kind of gentle. So I appreciated that. But that other nurse was just like so cold and not sympathetic at all. So I was already frustrated because I had been there all day. I was tired. And then now here's the second confirmation, that I was not pregnant. So I was dealing with that. So finally, that nurse, the one that was not sympathetic, he came and was like, the results of your ultrasound look good. Like there's no blood clots, blah, blah, blah. We can discharge you pretty much, like you're good. We have some discharge instructions and all that. So I'm like, great, get me out of here because I've been here all day and I just need to go. So yeah, I ended up leaving like around 7:30, 7:45. So again, that was an all day thing. So I left. Joe came back to pick me up and I told him like, yeah, we're not pregnant. Had a blood test and it was negative. So that was it was a lot to process, but I was like, you know what, we're just going to wait until beta tomorrow and get the final confirmation. So the next day, my mom, she was here in town. So she was like, well, let's go get some pedicures. And, while I was in the pedicure chair, I got the call. So that morning I went for the blood work. And then a couple hours later, my mom was like, let's go get pedicures. So, excuse me. So I went to go get pedicures. And while I was there, got the call from my nurse that, yeah, we were not pregnant. I think the number was like super, super low. I don't think she told me the number. She was just like, the transfer failed. And she was like, your doctor wants to set up a follow-up appointment with you next week. So we got that scheduled, but yeah, so our our third transfer failed. So now, if you've been with us on this journey, our first pregnancy ended in miscarriage. Our second pregnancy with twins ended in miscarriage. And then now this time it was failed. So that's four babies, four possibilities that we've lost. So that was just hard. It was hard to hear that we failed. Like we didn't even get past beta. The first two times we got past beta, we got the first time we didn't get past the ultrasound. The second time we did get to the ultrasound, but this one was like we didn't even get past beta. So it was just very hard, disappointing. I will say that I was thankful that I was not further along and experienced another miscarriage. So I did see God's grace in that, but it was just still very difficult to just go through yet another loss. It was different than the last two, but it was still a loss. And it was very, um, at that time, it was discouraging. Like, we were just like, what the heck? We changed doctors, we did a new transfer protocol, we did everything right. And here it is, like, it didn't even take, you know. So that was hard and disappointing. And then we I spoke with my doctor the following week, and it was pretty much like we were starting from scratch. She wanted to do an HSG, the ultra or the X-ray. She wanted to just pretty much start from scratch, just to see where we were, like what went wrong. Um, so I'll explain more and go in more depth with that, because all of that leads up to the last surgery that I had. In the next video, I'll explain all of that, but I did just want to share here that our third transfer failed, and we were not successful. So, uh, it was hard, but we continue to remain faithful. Even after that, there were two instances where, God asked me to speak and to share our story. So in October, I was invited to the 1212 Ministries Refined Conference, where I was the keynote speaker, and I shared everything that we had been through, even the fact that I had just had a failed transfer. And at that time, I was hoping that I would be at that conference pregnant and encouraging women in that way, but God just had a different plan. So I was able to share my story and encourage other women, and I was encouraged by the women that were in attendance. And then for Thanksgiving, Joe and I were part of the Thanksgiving. It was called the Gratitude Project, with the Breath of Life Ministries. Our pastor was leading out with that, and we were one of the people who were asked to share our testimony, to share our story of what it looks like to be grateful, in the midst of a season of waiting, like what that looks like. So that was another opportunity where God wanted us to share our story. So while we were in that difficult season, God used what we were dealing with for his glory. And I know that he's going to continue to do that. One of the things that I said in uh, the special, the Thanksgiving Day special, was that I was thankful that God chose me to share this story, to carry this load, and that it was just an honor that God thought that much of me to walk this path and to share it. So while it is hard, while it is difficult, I do find moments where I see God's hand. I find moments where I'm just thankful for what he's doing and how he's using me to impact others. um, so I appreciate you all for being on this journey with me, the ups, the downs, all of it. I'm praying that with our fourth attempt that we are successful, but there's still a little more that I have to share with you before we get there. But again, I just thank you guys so much for joining us on this journey, for subscribing, for commenting, for sharing. And I hope that you will continue to do those things, continue to share and continue to comment. And yeah, I think that's it for this video. I don't want it to drag out. I just wanted to continue from the last video. So I will see you in the next one and talk all about the surgery and what that was like. So yeah, until then, love you guys. Bye.